Welcome to the Savvy Property Investors Podcast, a weekly show that delivers the best hard-hitting property industry news, business advice, and talks that will get you ascending in the real estate industry. Now, here's your host, the amazing award-winning property and business coach, best-selling author, and serial entrepreneur, Miss Sapphire Gray.
Hello and welcome to the Savvy Property Investors Show, episode 6. Today's topic, we're talking about legacy and business and protection planning. Our guest today is Jason. So once again, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Savvy Property Investors Show. This is a show for newbie or seasoned property investors, coaches, consultants, or even trainers who wants to become savvy investors and building a legacy for you and your loved ones. My name is Sapphire Gray and I'm your host today. Every week I will bring you different topics talking about property investment or various business topics on how to grow as an expert in business. Sometimes we interview clients so that you can learn from them, or we bring in expert speakers from the property or business world. Today we're going to be talking about legacy and building protection planning. But before I introduce our guests, I want to remind you about a couple of things. If you haven't already subscribed to our podcast, please go ahead and do that now. On our YouTube channel, so you don't miss out on any other episodes and you can see previous episodes of our show. We also have the Property Investors Toolkit. This will make your property investment a lot easier. The toolkit consists of many steps 1 to 7 and showing you the easiest way of you investing in property. Whether you're a newbie or seasoned property investor, the Property Investors Toolkit will serve you well. So go ahead and check it out in our show notes, or you can go to the Savvy Women website and you can click on the link for the Property Toolkit. It is currently at an amazing price of £37. So to go ahead and download and get this toolkit, which will help you become a savvy property investor. It's time to introduce our guest, Jason. Jason is a personal insurance, inheritance tax and estate planning advisor. His company is Intelligent Protection Solution, provides intelligent insurance solutions, life cover, income protection, critical illness cover and private medical insurance for individuals, business owners and property investors, with the aim of making sure that you would have worked hard for your protection. In the event of any accident, sickness or death, Jason is the man to go to help you to protect yourself. He also does estate planning and inheritance tax. Jason helps people, especially property investors, minimize inheritance tax and plan for a legacy planning to make sure that what you have worked hard for goes for the people you want. And in fact, goes to the people you want. As Zig Ziglar said once, he's quoted here, money is not everything, but it ranks right up there with oxygen. Totally agree with that, Jason. Jason's goal is to make sure that you're in time of distress and uncertainty, that you are absolutely protected, and also your assets. Maintain your lifestyle to be secure in the knowledge that you have created generational wealth for your family. He currently finds new clients from other business professionals, for instance, mortgage brokers, financial advisors, insurance brokers, accountants. He also is a speaker at a number of seminars, business shows, and property network events. Jason, what a beautiful bio you have. And I really can't wait to start interviewing you. So I am your host. So let's get started, Jason. Thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you for your invitation to be a guest on your show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. So let's get started. So does someone need to have insurance on their properties?
No, they don't actually, because the banks no longer insist that you should have or have to have insurance. So it's an individual thing. If you don't have insurance, then the bank come after their money. And that's going to be by selling the assets that you hold. As long as they get their money back, they're happy with that. But they no longer insist that people should have insurance to cover their portfolios.
Okay, that's really good to know. But why would someone get insurance? Is basically to protect themselves against, in the event of a big storm comes, like we just recently had this year, and then could take away your property. It will cover you then, wouldn't it?
Well, for me, I think the key thing is, and a sentence that I'm coining is, you can't give away what you don't own. So if anything does happen to us, one thing we do know is certain in life is at some point we're going to leave the planet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, none of us want that to come anytime soon, but we know it's guaranteed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a property portfolio and you pass away, a will isn't sufficient enough to give those properties to your children or grandkids or whoever you want to give them to,
Mm-hmm.
because they have mortgage debt on it.
Mm-hmm.
So although it's a choice for you to have some insurance on it, if you don't have insurance, 9 times out of 10, whatever properties that you hand down may need to get sold, or majority of them may need to get sold to pay off the debts.
Mm-hmm.
But by having some form of life insurance to cover, if not some of the portfolio, all
Mm-hmm.
of the portfolio, then you can certainly hand those properties directly down to children, family, without any questions.
So if someone made a will this be sufficient enough to hand down their properties to the family?
We see this all the time, and I speak to a number of um, will advisors who, in my view, have missed the trick,
Mm.
because they've taken down a will instruction where this person said, for example, I've got 5 properties and I want those properties to be handed down to my 4 children,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you think about a will is actually quite an historic vehicle. What the will says is that your trustees, whoever's executing your will, looking after your will for you,
Mm-hmm.
their duty, their job is to collate all of your entire worldwide assets,
Mm-hmm.
all of your outstanding taxes and bills, sell the assets and distribute whatever is left amongst the beneficiaries.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about a property investor, many of the property investors I speak to, they wouldn't want their assets to be sold.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them say, actually, I want these properties to be handed down in whole. So by you doing a will and saying, these are the people that I want to leave these properties to, if there's outstanding debt,
Mm.
which your executors have to pay off, i.e. the mortgages, where does the money come from to pay those mortgages? It
Mm.
only comes from the sale of property. So therefore, a will by itself is not
Doesn't
a
stand up.
sufficient vehicle to hand down properties. You have to be able to hand them down what we call
Debt free.
unencumbered,
Yeah,
i.e. debt
yeah,
free, no
that's
mortgage.
right. I totally understand that. So how much cover does one need then to do that?
It's a great question. It all depends on the individual,
Mm-hmm.
and it all depends upon the affordability, and it all depends upon how creative you are in getting the money together to pay for it and how important
Mm.
it is. So what some of my investor clients are now doing, looking at getting a property to pay for their life insurance.
Mm.
When you ask somebody how much can you afford towards your life cover, we're already thinking about all the other bills that we've got to pay.
True.
And we're like, maybe £50, £100, whatever it may be, right? But when you flip the conversation on its head and say, you could cover your whole portfolio. Let's say that portfolio is 1.5 million pounds, for example, but the premium for that insurance policy is going to be 200 pounds a month. A clever way to do it is to get your tenants to pay for it. So have a property that is probably earmarked for that goal. You know, you're a great property investor.
Yeah.
You know, I see some people investing all over the country. But let's say you got a property in Birmingham, for example, and you paid whatever, £70,000 for it. And the yield from that property is £250, £300 per month. You could do the refinancing, get your money back out of that property. But the income coming in from that property could now be what you use to pay for your life assurance.
Okay.
So it's a completely fresh and different way of looking at it, because it now means that you're not trapped in a box in relation to what the affordability is towards this particular policy, because then the policy is the driving factor. How much you want to pay off your portfolio is the driving factor.
Yeah.
But you might not be able to pay off everything.
True.
So, as you know, we have to be sensible at some point. You know, how long is a piece of string? So some people go, I'm not going to do £1.5 million, £2 million, but actually I'm going to do £1 million of insurance. That's still going to put my family in a great position. They might not be able to pay off the entire portfolio, but actually half of the portfolio can be paid off. So it's flexible to each person.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, it would be amazing and fantastic to pay off the complete portfolio.
True.
But we don't expect everyone to just put all of their money in this basket of insurance. It's about diversification.
Yeah, it's true.
So when we look at that legacy plan, it's about diversifying. You've got your properties, plus you've got your insurance, and combining those two things together.
So that basically goes into like having life insurance. How can life insurance protect your property business in relationship to legacy planning?
Yeah. So by having enough life assurance to pay off the portfolio, yeah, it means that you're handing down a number of property that are unencumbered. So isn't that an amazing situation to put your family in, where they can inherit whatever number of properties with no mortgage debt on it?
That's true.
That means that the income coming in is a larger amount of money. At some point, if they want to grow the portfolio, they can refinance later on if they want to do so. By having the life assurance policy in place, it just means that it provides flexibility. Somebody came on a Clubhouse the other day and he said to me, yeah, but Jason, this doesn't need to be done. It doesn't have to be done. The lenders don't need to do it. But it's not about what has to be done. It's about what position do you want to put your children and your family in. And that's an individual choice.
It is really an individual choice, because when we pass, we're not knowing what the financial situation we're leaving our family in, or even at that time, we could be in a precarious financial situation where we're thinking later on we can correct it. But how about doing something now? So in the event of, and we all know that life waits for no one. We could be here today, gone tomorrow. So putting ourselves in that position from the outset, we are recognizing it, and you're advising us, puts us in a very good position to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because when we talk about legacy planning, somebody said yesterday at a networking meeting I went to, right, that legacy planning is not handing down debt. It shouldn't be about handing down debt. It should be about handing down assets and money. So if you currently have a portfolio that has £1 million on it, you really want to hand that £1 million debt onto the children?
True. So can an insurance help potential inheritance tax then? Because it seems like we'd need to get cover for, because you're handing off a debt, and also inheritance tax will come and bite you as well. So what can insurance do to help mitigate that?
Yeah, so the exact same product. So life insurance is an amazing thing
Hmm.
because not only can it be used to pay off any potential mortgage debt, but it can also be used to pay towards any inheritance tax liability. So one thing that I've seen quite a lot, families that have come to me, they've inherited a property or two, whatever it may be, but then they don't have cash to pay the inheritance tax bill that is due. The
Right,
only way to pay that tax bill is to sell. It's
right.
a shame because they could have themselves. I mean, I've got one client. She lived in that property for all of her life.
Hmm.
Been in her family for whatever 40 odd years.
Mm.
Her mum wouldn't have wanted for that property to be sold just to pay a tax bill. But with early planning, you could have used a life assurance policy to pay the tax bill.
Yeah.
And even if it's not enough to pay the entire tax bill, with property investors, you could use part of the lump sum to pay the initial payment.
Hmm.
So the revenue, say 6 months after death, we expect a payment towards the inheritance tax bill. And if you've got a portfolio, you could pay the rest of the bill over the next 10 years.
Right.
But you still need to find that initial
Lump sum.
lump sum within 6 months of death.
Wow. So that's where the
Out of
insurance
10,
comes in.
that's where the insurance comes in. So having, looking at it and reviewing it regularly, you could have an insurance policy, a life insurance policy that pays out outside of your estate.
Hmm.
So it's not included in your estate. And then you've got the cash to give the revenue to appease them and
True.
pay them the rest over that period of time.
Brilliant. Well, join us after the break with more insights from Jason.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button below. Our podcast is only made possible by great listeners like you.
Thank you so much, Jason. You've given us a plethora of information at the front end of our podcast. It's been great learning about how much cover you would need, what that cost could look like, and what kind of insurance would need for inheritance tax and in relation to leaving a good legacy plan. So, does life insurance need to be in a trust?
Absolutely. So one of the problems accidentally caused by some mortgage advisors is that they may advise the client to have life assurance, but when we look at the inheritance tax calculation,
Hmm.
the calculation is all of your worldwide assets minus your liabilities minus your threshold that starts off at 325,000.
Hmm.
Your life assurance policy is included in that total of assets. So it's your property value, all of your life assurance value, minus the mortgage debt, then minus 325,000. So you can see there that if you have a life assurance policy that isn't in trust, then you're going to have an issue because I know some people, just on their life assurance policy alone, 40% of it is going to go to the government
Yeah.
because the inheritance tax threshold is 40%. Yeah. Anything over that £325,000.
Hmm.
And that's an awful shame for the sake of either a paperwork exercise or if you get an independent trust that could cost you anywhere from 500 to £1,000. But
Yeah,
the amount of money that you're saving is exponential, really.
true. I know for some businesses, it's in the last 2 years, we've seen the disruption in our personal and business lives, what's gone on across the world. And a lot of businesses never thought of covering themselves pre this pandemic and regrettably didn't. And their business has either suffered a loss or had to close. So, what do you say how a business can protect themselves in regards to critical illness?
So you've got different elements, yeah.
Hmm.
Anyone that has a business, no matter what business it is, whether it's uh, a general business where you're a consultant or whether you're a property entrepreneur, that's still a business, right? It's just different things within that business. So sometimes you've got to ask yourself the question, if something happened to you, let's take the two worst things,
Hmm.
heart attack or cancer, for example. If you couldn't work, how would that affect your business? How would that affect your income? Even if you had a property portfolio, it would have some perhaps effect because you might be the person that's been doing the running around, looking after the portfolio, speaking to tenants, making sure everything's going okay. I know of one person who had a serious illness and it definitely income went down from his portfolio because he wasn't able to be on top of things. You know, when tenants missed their rent, he wasn't able to chase that up in a timely fashion. So, instead of it being 1 month, it turned into 6 months, etc.
Hmm.
So having something like a critical illness policy will protect whatever business that you're actually in. And
Yeah.
what a critical illness policy does is pays a lump sum diagnosis of a critical illness, and that lump sum is a tax-free lump sum that can be used however you want to use it.
Mm.
You could have that policy as an individual, or you can have that policy owned by your company. If it's owned by your company, it can be used for loss of profits. So,
Hmm.
in the exact example that I've just mentioned to you there, if you're losing profits, you can just pop that money back into your bank account.
Mm.
Or if you needed to get somebody else in to run your business, if you needed to get another you in that business, how much would that cost?
Yeah.
If you were getting somebody in at short notice who was going to run your portfolio and do all the things that you're going to do over the next 12 months, you might have to give that person a salary of 50 grand, 75
Mm.
grand, whatever it may be, because they've got to drop whatever they're doing to look after your
True.
business,
Come
to
run
make
your
sure that your
business.
business is
Yeah.
surrounding and making an income.
Mm.
So having a critical illness policy for the business purposes could pay towards that person's income to look after your business so
Hmm.
it doesn't lose profit and income over that period of time.
Excellent. So, who should how do you choose a trustee if you're putting a policy in trust?
So with trust, I've actually had some clients who unfortunately have turned around and said to me, actually, I'm not going to put my policy in trust. Now that really tells you about relationships, doesn't it? Because your trustee has to be that particular person who you trust. It has to be somebody that can look after your family's interest if you weren't here, make right decisions for your children. Sometimes people haven't got that person.
Mm.
It's about choosing somebody that's savvy. You may have people in your life that care about you and love you, but they might not be financially savvy. They might not be the kind of people that are going to be able to look after money, invest money for your children, make sure that your best wishes happening from the grave, as it were, from you.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, so choosing the right people to be trustees for anything, for an insurance policy, for your will, is really important to choose the right people.
Excellent. And our last question, can anyone create a legacy plan for their kids, family, children and family?
I went to an amazing event last night,
Hmm.
which was to inspire the younger generation getting involved in property investing, yeah,
Hmm.
and some existing investors as well. But the point is that in trying to inspire these people to kind of start out something, you know, deposits, do joint ventures, do the studying. You know, sometimes they've got families that they're looking after, yeah,
Mm,
and it might take them a while to get to where they want to get to. It's a good idea to think about the future in mind
mm,
by having enough the right types of protection in place, by having enough life cover, by having enough critical illness cover, by having a appropriate will. It means that it gives anybody the opportunity to be able to create some form of legacy for
mm.
your children. Property portfolio is amazing. It changes people's lives because it provides an income. Yeah. But what most people want to do with that business that provides an income is also to provide a legacy for their family.
True.
Even if you haven't built that portfolio yet, or you're on your way to that goal, you can still make sure that firsthand that your family is looked after if anything happens to you. So for
True.
definite.
Thank you so much for sharing so much great insight. So, Jason, how can our listeners contact you and learn more about your services?
Well, I'm not amazing on social media, but I do have a Facebook page, so you
Hmm.
can contact me on Facebook. The name of the company is Intelligent Protection Solutions. I also go by IPS, but also you can email me or you can call me, contact me on the phone. I'm now also on Clubhouse as well, so I can be contacted through there as well.
Excellent. And they can find you on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Yeah, it's another place you can find me. So if you
Excellent.
type in my name on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be putting all your contact details in our show notes so that people can reach out to you, because I think your services are really something that people should look into now, not tomorrow, but right away. So we're looking forward to sharing your details with our audience so they really can protect themselves and build that legacy as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. And make sure you do check out Jason with this interesting interview. Thank you so much, Jason, for being our guest today. It's been an
Thank you.
absolute pleasure. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, download, and share. Come on, savvy investors, let's take flight. Thank you for listening to the Savvy Property Investor Show. Bye for now.
This week's episode of the Savvy Property Investors Podcast was brought to you by our sponsor, the Savvy Women Group. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to our website, www.savvywomen.co.uk, to gain access to our free resources and more insights about our guest speaker today. Remember, we make your business our business, so you can unlock your full potential and improve your quality of life.